Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Read Aloud with Miss Cope. Today's Tuesday, and it is June 9th, last week of school. Not last week for me, but last week for you kiddos. Big deal. End of 5th grade, going to middle school next year. Congratulations. Almost there. Final stretch. You're here because we're reading It Ain't So Awful Falafel by Firoozeh Dumas. By the way, not a really nice day out, so today is a good time to just get caught up in all your work inside today. You can do this. All right, we left off. Zomorod just got a job distributing newspapers in her neighborhood. The hostages are still in Iran, so her father still cannot find a job. So she's like, why not get a job myself? So good for her. And it makes twice as much as her babysitting money, which is nice. The piles of papers are already there when I get home from school. My mom doesn't like that they are taking up half the garage. As soon as I finish my homework, I go into the garage to fold. There are 4 huge stacks of papers and 8 stacks of inserts. I sit on the floor and put one on each insert. There are 2 today, an ad for El Rancho Market and coupons for Hot Dog Heaven. Inside the newspaper, fold it and stretch a rubber band around it. The bands are tight and thin and keep snapping on my fingers, and it hurts. When it's finally time to deliver the papers, I put on the special vinyl delivery apron with the wraparound pocket. It came with an instruction sheet on how to wear it, which says that the weight of the papers must be distributed evenly in the pocket. Since Chuck knows that he's not dealing with brain surgeons, there are also drawings illustrating the right and wrong way. The right way shows a kid smiling as if there's nothing else he'd rather be doing than wearing a weird wraparound apron and sitting on his bike. The wrong way shows a kid lying on his back on the sidewalk, arms stretched wide with newspapers spewed everywhere. He looks like Humpty Dumpty. I want to make sure I do this right, so I go inside to ask my dad for help. He's on the sofa listening to the radio. He brings the radio with him to the garage as if something important might happen in the next 5 minutes. I put on the apron and he stuffs as many papers as he can into the pocket. I try to get on my bike, but I'm feeling very wobbly. The apron is too heavy, I say. Let me help you. My dad holds my bike steady while I climb on. Just make sure you deliver an equal number from the front and back and both sides. You need to maintain equilibrium, he advises. Suddenly, this seems way more complicated than I thought. My dad pushes me down the driveway and I'm off. I'm now a paid employee, part of the American workforce. I grab the first paper from the front of the apron and throw it, no problem. I pull the second from the right side, this is easy. I reach for the paper in the back, it's packed in tight. I pull and pull real hard, steering with my left hand. The bike goes wobbly and veering directly into Mrs. Harris's garden gnomes. Next thing I know, I'm on the ground with papers all around me. I am the second illustration. My dad, who has been watching, runs to help. He pulls me up and we stuff the papers back into the apron. My elbow and hip hurt. More than that, I am so embarrassed. It takes me 3 hours to deliver all the papers. I'm exhausted, sweaty, and scraped up. I fell 4 times. I know one thing now. Folding and delivering newspapers is a horrible job. When I get home after finally delivering the last pile, my dad says he will help me next time. Do you want me to drive you, he offers. No, Baba. No one does that, I say. That would be even more embarrassing. 2 days later, my dad and I are back in the garage, determined to fold and deliver before dark. I look at him wearing sweatpants, sitting on a box, folding newspapers as fast as he can. He should be at work wearing a suit, sitting behind his desk, doing something that matters. We're almost done when my mom appears in the doorway. Thank God you're finally not listening to the radio, she says to my dad. I can listen to the radio all day if I want, he snaps back. In the same way that some animals can tell when a storm is coming, I can tell when a fight is about to happen. A fight is about to happen. Sure enough, a minute later, they're both yelling and screaming at each other. The garage door is wide open. They're arguing in Persian, but you don't need to understand a single word to know when people are fighting. Yelling is pretty universal. I hope the Lindens and the Kleins can't hear them. Next chapter. Let there be light. I think the Kleins must have heard the fight because the next day, Dr. and Mrs. Klein both came over. I answer the door with my parents. They exchange hellos, and then Mrs. Klein gives Mama a fern. Thank you, she says. My parents do not invite them like they usually do. Please let us know if there's anything we could do for you, Dr. Klein says. We're very sorry that some Americans are treating Iranians poorly, and we hope that no one has mistreated you. Thank you, David, my father says. Americans have always been good to us. As soon as the neighbors leave, my parents start fighting again, this time about whether or not the Kleins heard their fight the day before. My home is like those stores that play background music, but instead of music, we have arguing. I sneak upstairs to my room and shut the door. I can still hear them. Next chapter. Ain't it awful, falafel? I received my first paycheck after 2 weeks, $49. It's in an envelope taped to the top of one of the sacks of newspapers. I give it to my dad. He says he can't take it. I insist, and he finally accepts. I'm no longer saving for college. When you can't afford to eat out once a week, even with a free drink coupon, how are you going to pay for college? My parents and I haven't discussed this, but what's the point? My dad already has a meltdown in Sears when he couldn't afford to buy the nightstand that goes with my fake wooden bed. I can't imagine how he'd react if we talked about college tuition. It might kill him. That evening, I'm delivering papers when I see Skip watering the plants outside his house. I've gotten much better at riding with the apron. I've only fallen 2 more times. I also know to avoid Mrs. Harris's garden gnomes in the Stolberg's cactus plant, although some challenges remain. Hi, Sydney, he says. What's up, partner? And then on the bottom of the page it says, note to the Nathans, I am truly sorry about the koi pond incident. I tried to fish the paper out. It sank really fast. I stopped. Not much, just delivering the paper. Hey, I think Brock mentioned that your family is from Iran. Is that right, he asked? Yes, I answered wearily. I wish I hadn't stopped. I knew a guy in the dorm of USC who was from Iran. I can't remember his name, but he was real nice. He went back home after he graduated to run his dad's business. I wonder how he is now. I don't know, I say. I hope things are okay for your family. It's a scary time. We don't know what's going to happen, I admit. Ain't it awful, falafel, Skip says, shaking his head. We can only hope for the best. I've never heard that expression. What's a falafel, I asked. I thought they were Iranian. They're those little fried bean balls. I used to have them all the time at USC. Really good. They might have them in Iran, but I've never had one. It's not an Iranian food. Maybe it's originally from one of the Arab countries. Kind of like tacos in America are really from Mexico. I'll be darned, Skip explains. I thought Iran is an Arab country. A lot of people think that, but it's not true. I smile and start pedaling to the next house. I gotta go deliver the papers now. See you soon, raccoon. I can hear Skip laughing as I wobble away. So, we learned that falafels are not something that Iranians eat. And Iran is not an Arab country. Next chapter. Gray skies. One morning during breakfast, we hear on the radio that President Carter had sent a secret rescue mission to Iran, but the mission was unsuccessful. One of the helicopters crashed and 8 American servicemen died. We are horrified. I do not want to go to school. At lunch, a group of 8th graders come up to Carolyn, Rachel, and me in the cafeteria, surrounding us like vultures. They're huge. One of them points at me. Hey, you need to free the hostages now or we're nuking Iran. I freeze. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm hoping there's a grown-up nearby who can help us, just in case. We should just nuke them now anyway, another one says, leaning in close to my face. I start to shake. They laugh and walk away, singing, Bomb, 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 Iran. Bomb, Iran is a really popular song on the radio these days. It sounds like the Beach Boys' Bara Bara Ann, a song that I used to love. We need to tell the principal, Carolyn insists when they're gone. Let's not, I plead, still shaking. I agree with Cindy, says Rachel. Even if those guys get detention, they'll just bugger more after. They don't even pronounce the name of the country correctly, Carolyn huffs, but thankfully she lets it drop. Why did some idiot have to ruin the Beach Boys song, says Rachel. What do you think, Sydney? I don't know. What I really want to say is that I am so angry at Khamenei and these stupid hostage takers, at the person who wrote that stupid song, and at all the Americans who can't even find Iran on a map, but are so quick to declare everyone who's from there the enemy. But I'm afraid that if I start saying all this, I won't be able to stop, and I'll end up like my dad in the Sears showroom. So I say nothing. How frustrating is it to be bullied and harassed based on where you're from, and not feeling like you're able to tell someone and speak up for yourself because of the political environment where you live. Next chapter, valedictorian. I get an invitation in the mail to Matt's high school graduation. He's a valedictorian, which means he got the highest grades out of everyone in his senior class and gets to give a speech at the commencement ceremony. I want to be valedictorian too, Carolyn announces. I would also like to be valedictorian, but what's the point if I'm not going to college? My parents buy a fancy pen for Matt. I think it's a terrible gift. What is the purpose of a fancy pen? A cheap one works just as well. Every graduate needs a nice pen, my dad insists. Thankfully, the store had complimentary gift wrap. Otherwise, Matt would have been the lucky recipient of a present wrapped in "It's a Boy" paper. I'm sure my dad would have said, "What's wrong with that? He is a boy." Carolyn's parents have decorated their house with appropriate streamers and balloons that have pictures of graduation caps on them. The paper plates and napkins have diplomas on them, and the balloons are gold and blue, the colors of UCLA, which Matt will be attending. There's a huge cake that says "Congratulations, Matt" on it. The house is filled with friends and neighbors who have known him since he was a little boy. This is what happens when you live in one place for more than a couple years. There are people in your life who have seen you grow up. At the party, Matt thanks me for the gift. I'm not sure if he really likes it or if it's just being polite. In any case, I appreciate his manners. Even though you pestered me for the past 2 years, I'm glad you're Carolyn's friend, he says. Thanks. I suddenly feel shy and awkward with him, which is weird. And hang in there, guys. We'll eventually appreciate smart girls like you. I blush and mumble something about having to go help Carolyn clean up. That is the nicest thing a boy has ever said to me. Next chapter. Summer of '80. The summer before 8th grade is supposed to be one of the best times in a kid's life. I have heard people say this many times, both in real life and on TV. If this is the best time in my life, I'm doomed. My mom wears her pink terry cloth robe morning to night, and my parents keep the curtains closed all day. Our house is like a tomb, and I'm trapped inside it. I do not feel like hanging out with my friends at all this summer. Thankfully, Rachel is going away to attend school camp. Soon, Carolyn is taking tennis lessons 5 days a week at UC Irvine, and Howie at a church camp. I'm looking forward to delivering papers so I can spend time alone from my parents. Other than that, I watch TV. I try to avoid the news as much as I can, since there is always something about Iran and it is always depressing. The first time Carolyn calls me, I tell her I'm sick. The second time she calls, I say that I have to help my parents clean the house. The third time, I tell her we're going on a road trip, and she finally gives up. All right, last chapter, because I got to get to my office hours. It's my 10th birthday. I'm pretty sure my parents have forgotten, which is fine with me. I'm glad I didn't plan a party. Having to pretend that we're happy about something requires more energy than we have. We're sitting on the sofa watching TV when someone rings the bell. My parents are riveted to the screen. So I jump up and open the door. Surprise, it's Carolyn and Rachel. Carolyn is holding a big bunch of red balloons that bob happily in the breeze. And Rachel has a fancy plate with strawberry shortcake, my favorite. I know this should make me happy, but I regret having opened the door. I don't feel like celebrating. I wish they hadn't dropped by like this. Before I can say anything, they hand me the balloons and a gift wrap box that Carolyn pulls from her back pocket. I know that I should ask them to come in and have a piece of cake with me, but my mom is wearing her pink terry cloth robe and our house is a mess. Thank you so much, I say quickly. I'm sorry, but I have to go. I close the door and walk back into the living room with the balloons and the gift. My mom starts crying as soon as she sees them. I usually ask what is wrong when she cries, but right now I just don't feel like it. It's my birthday, and I would like one day off from worrying about my mom. I go to my room and shut the door. I open the gift slowly. It's a puka shell necklace. I put it back in the box and close the lid. I've wanted one for so long. I used to think that wearing a puka shell necklace would somehow mean that I was just like other kids. How stupid was I? Kind of a sad way to end our read aloud, but hopefully it gets better for Zomorod and her family soon. Thank you for watching. Have a great Tuesday. I'll see you tomorrow. Toodles.